At a young age, I became obsessed with the idea of human enlightenment. I became obsessed with the idea, the possibility that within our cognitive structure, within our physiology, within our bodies, within our minds, within our overall template, our blueprint as humans, we had the potential to become more. We had the potential to perform superhuman abilities, that maybe, just maybe, we had the ability to do things like telepathy or telekinesis, that we had the ability to do things as far-fetched and crazy sounding as levitating, flying, breathing underwater, walking through walls, bilocating, communicating with animals, communicating with spirits, communicating with, trees. All things have electromagnetic fields, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll get into that in maybe later on in the video, because that's really important when it comes to communicating with plants or animals. You do so through the electromagnetic field, the resonance of the electromagnetic field, but that can only take place when the human aura is brought back online. And that can only take place through the Kundalini rising. But after a lifetime pretty much of searching, I discovered the truth. I had a handful of Kundalini awakenings, Kundalini experiences in my early 20s. That brought me up to speed with what we were supposed to be experiencing here in this world, ladies and gentlemen. It took me out of my slave consciousness and took my metaphysical antennas and put them in their upright positions. I was allowed to see past my conditioned blinders. The Kundalini does this, ladies and gentlemen, by reawakening the electrical pathways in the human physiology. The Kundalini moves through all of the 33 vertebrae of the human spine, the 33 steps on the stairway to heaven. It moves through the ganglia and reawakens all of the churches of God, the true churches of God, which are specific regions within the cerebral spinal system, ladies and gentlemen, that house the chakras, or chakras as many people call it. These energy vortexes are very real. There's a lot of misinformation out there on the web about them. There's a lot of fluff, hippity-dippity bullshit. But regardless of all that, the chakra churches, the 7 primary churches of God, are indeed real. There's biblical references to this. There's, even in the book of Revelation, there's all sorts of holy text that has been written, which if you read it with an open mind and an open heart, and if you read it in a non-literal way, and if you are able to look at it for its symbolic value and its metaphoric value, you might be able to actually see deeper into scripture and see that there's a lot of references to the Kundalini energy, especially in the book of Revelation. But Kundalini allowed me to see it allowed me to see past my blinders, and it did so by bringing my body and my mind, my consciousness up to speed with with the truth. The truth is that, ladies and gentlemen, we exist. We're limited. Our senses are limited to our 5 senses, and we are only able to see and interact with and experience a very small percentage of the electromagnetic spectrum. Kundalini takes that little percentage of the whole. Imagine if the electromagnetic spectrum, for instance, was 12 inches. Let's just look at it symbolically. It was 12 inches long. And this was the entire electromagnetic spectrum, And within that range, there's this like 1 centimeter, half a centimeter value that humans are plugged into out of the whole 12 inches. Now, we exist in that half centimeter framework, and because of that, we exist within a very limited bandwidth of the truth. When Kundalini moves through your system, and when the purifying rising fire of the phoenix, the rising serpents, move through your cerebral spinal system and awaken, nourish, and bring the bells of the 7 primary churches of God and reawaken all the nerves and the ganglion positions, and there's so many very hyper advanced aspects to Kundalini within the physiology, relating to the coccyx, the coccygeal church, the cauda equina, various parts of the spine. When the Kundalini energy moves through through the cerebral spinal system, ladies and gentlemen, it awakens the consciousness in ways that would blow your mind as it rises up and rings a bell of each church, which is just a metaphor that I use to explain the awakening of that particular chakra, the awakening of the church, the ringing of the bells. Because when the Kundalini fire moves through a chakra, ladies and gentlemen, it stimulates and awakens the chakra by reinvigorating it with life force to the point where it actually starts to vibrate and produce a harmonic resonance. These are the true church bells ringing, the harmonic resonance, the vibratory resonance, the frequency of all of these chakras. And when all 7 of the primary chakras, the 7 churches of God, are illuminated and reawakened, you now have a conglomeration of all of these frequencies that produce an effect, it produces a tremendous effect on, it's what awakens your aura, ladies and gentlemen, these frequencies. These frequencies, when they start to ring, when the bells do ring, it's what contacts the angelic aethers as well. And that's why many people who experience true, authentic Kundalini experiences, they are accompanied, once the energy gets into the head and they can see through, their first eye, so to speak, if you want to call it that, when their consciousness is united, when the Kundalini bridges all the schisms in an individual's mind, consciousness, heart, soul, body, etc., you are allowed to see the truth. You can see now past the blinders of the electromagnetic spectrum, and many people are visited by angels. It's because this process, Kundalini, is the process of God moving through your system, ladies and gentlemen. That's what it is. So anyone who wants to try to get on my channel and tell me that Kundalini is evil or that it's a false spirit, clearly you've never experienced it. And clearly you shouldn't act like a spokesperson for this energy and spread misinformation, because it makes you look like a fool to the people who have actually been blessed and touched by this energy, which is nothing more than the energy, the evolutionary energy of life itself. It's God energy, folks. It exists within our system. It can be woken up. The system has erected a system, however, where it seeks to keep this energy from rising, because by doing that, by keeping you in a conditioned state of mind, by keeping your chakras pretty much dead, so to speak, by keeping hardly any life force in your system, by keeping you in a state of pretty much spiritual narcolepsy, or it's like you're pretty much 90% asleep, they can use you as a slave.